Well, some colleagues came in and left again, but we need 2 more to make a quorum, so please invite them to come back in. We're short of 2.
冇辦法啦，唔係。
Short of 2. I saw some colleagues come in, but then they left, walked out again. We are now short of 1 member. If a member joins us, okay, fine, great. It's time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the panel on constitutional affairs. Item 1 on the agenda, information papers issued since the last meeting. There was none. Item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. Secretary, can we invite the Secretary in, please? Welcome, Secretary and your team. We have with us the Secretary for Constitutional Affairs, Mr. Raymond Tam, Mr. Gordon Leung, Deputy Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, and Ms. Ann Tang, Principal Assistant Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. Our next meeting will be on the 16th of June. I understand you wish to propose 2 items for discussion. Can you take brief us on those items, please? Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We propose to cover 2 items at the next meeting. First one is to follow up on the legislative amendment in relation to the sex discrimination ordinance. It's about protection in relation to sexual harassment. Now, there are 4 amendments proposed by the EOC. One is to revise the scope of protection so that those receiving, those providing services or goods will not be harassed by their customers. We are now ready to brief members on the latest progress at the next meeting, and we would also like to take the opportunity to listen to members' views on the subject. That's the first item. Second item, briefing by the chairman of the Equal Opportunities Commission. You know, Dr. Yiu-chung assumed the chairmanship on the 1st of April this year. We've talked to him, and he's more than happy to attend the June meeting so that he could brief you on his views and his vision in relation to his work at the EOC. So we propose to the panel to invite the new EOC chairman to attend the next meeting so that he could brief you on his work. So those are 2 items we're proposing. Ms. Emily Lau. I hope Mr. Dr. Chow would be more proactive. There's so much outstanding work that needs to be done. What about the hearing on the Convention on the Right of Children? Do you know that it's going ahead in September? Do you have any latest information? And can we have a meeting in June on that, please? As far as understand. I think the UN hasn't yet announced the exact date. It's somewhere in September or between September and early October, but the UN hasn't actually set a date. But as soon as we know, we'll let you know. So it will be in autumn then, September, October. I'm sure the administration will send someone along. In that case, can we have a meeting in June? Because last time, what you did was well supported by members. And this time, I'm sure many groups will be going to the UN hearing. So perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you could work out with the clerk. And then we can invite deputations to come and give their views on the government's report on the Convention on the Right of Children. And then, of course, when Dr. Yiu-chung comes next time, he could also give his views on the matter. Secretary? Well, after the meeting, we will have further discussion with the Secretariat. I understand for the hearing on the UN Convention on the Right of Children, I think earlier on this year there was a chance for us to discuss the matter, but then actually on the 18th of March, we had a public hearing to hear views from the public, and it's only May now. Well, because we only had a discussion on the 18th of March, so maybe too close to have another discussion. Maybe let's see when they have an exact date, and we could make the arrangement. Any other points, please? Dr. Kenneth CHAN. Thank you. If I could refer to one of the papers under this item. That is my letter to members. The archive law and freedom of information law, I think it's about time we discuss it. Now, at the administration of Justice Legal Services panel, I said I'll leave it to the Secretary for Justice, Mr. Rimsky-Yun, to take up the matter because it's so important, the two issues. But then the chairman of the panel, Dr. Priscilla Leung, said she would discuss it with you. So it seems that the ball is being bounced back and forth. So are we going to take up the matter at this panel? And what is the position of the Secretary? Because it's not a new issue, if I may remind members. We've been talking about it for a long time. Last time, LegCo also dealt with the issue. We don't want the government to just pass the buck to the Law Reform Commission. And I think at this panel we ought to follow up on the issue proactively, and we have to find out what the Bureau's thinking is, whether there's a timetable or roadmap for the legislative exercises. Secretary? Yes, I note that this paper was, the letter was actually written to the chairperson of the administration of Judicial and Legal Services panel, and I also responded on another occasion. Now there's the Ombudsman and the Law Reform Commission are both involved in these subjects. The LC has set up a committee to look at the relevant legislation in other jurisdictions, and the Ombudsman is now conducting an investigation into a complaint. The administration has already stated that when the Ombudsman has completed its investigation and the LLC has completed its report, then we will report to members on the steps forward. On next step forward. But I think for now we have to wait for the two bodies to complete their work before we can tell you what our next step is. Do you know when they might complete all their tasks? The Ombudsman is an independent body. I can't really speak for him. Now there's an investigation on their own initiative, and part of the work is related to my bureau. They've asked for information from our bureau, and we have already submitted all such information. So I don't think it should take too long. As for the LLC, well, that's a matter for the Secretary for Justice. I don't really have the information at hand. Can you ask the SJ whether there's a time frame for the report. But I will find out and I'll let the Secretariat know. So Dr. Chan, in that case, let's wait for the information before we decide when we're going to take it up. Can I confirm that it will be this panel that we follow up through you? Yes, no problem, because the relevant bureau is the Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Bureau, right? Secretary? Mr. Chairman, it was about the system on access to information, to public open information. That's a matter for my bureau, and definitely we'll be happy to follow up on that here. In that case, for the June 17th meeting, those are the items to be covered. And item 3 on the agenda, review on the number of elected seats for the 5th term district councils. The administration has prepared a paper for us. The Secretary has also prepared an updated background brief. So can I ask the Secretary to take us through the paper, please? LC paper number CB bracket 21130/12 to 13 bracket 01. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 5th term of the District Council will start in 2016, and we will have to conduct the election in November 2015. So we need to review the number of elected members. Is to make sure that the Electoral Affairs Commission could, in accordance with the relevant legislation, recommend the boundaries of DC constituencies for the DC election. We've been following the same practice. At the end of March, the Planning Department has already announced the projected population, and that's the basis of our review. Then the existing population quota is 17,282. On that basis, we work out how many elected seats need to be increased or reduced. We find that for 9 DCs, they need to have an additional 19 seats. 5 DCs need to have a reduction of 8 seats, and 4 DCs can maintain the same number of seats. So based on the same formula, for the number of elected DC members, that will increase from by 11 seats from 412. But we have to consider 3 factors. First, the start of the term of the next DC. By then, all appointed seats will be abolished if this is approved by this council. And then we are also considering how we could further enhance the role of the DC. And when we reduce the number of seats, of course, that may affect the service provided to the public. And then there may be fewer channels for those interested to take part in politics. So having considered all these factors, we propose to make some adjustments. For instance, for 5 DCs, because of a smaller population, the number of elected seats ought to be reduced, but we propose to maintain the same number of elected seats. So therefore, we're proposing no reduction. And after the adjustment, for the 5th term DC, the number of elected seats will be increased from 412 by 19 to 431. For the increase of the 19 elected seats, the details are spelled out in the paper, so I don't propose to go through that here. If we have the support in principle of this panel, our plan is that within this legislative session, that is before the summer break, we will table the relevant subsidiary legislation to the Council. One member has raised his hands. Anyone else, please?
Dr. Kenneth CHAN, Ms. Emily Lau. Anyone else? Mr. Ronnie Tong. All right. 5 minutes each, please. All right, the order is this. You've got him, Kenneth CHAN, Emily Lau, Ronnie Tong. Mr. You've got him. Thank you, Chairman. I support the paper. We are considering the number of elected seats based on the population growth. And I also noted, and the Secretary also mentioned, and the paper also said that for some districts there has been a drop in the population, but then the number of seats are proposed to remain unchanged. And that's very important because the residents of certain districts are familiar with their elected seats number, and then if there is going to be great change, then that is going to cause adverse impact. So I think we should make adjustment after taking into all considerations. I think that's an acceptable way of going about it. Now, after the abolition of the appointed seats, we would also, the LegCo as a whole, be scrutinizing the bill on the abolition of the appointed seats. Parties of all political persuasions will be in support of the bill. I think a slight increase in the number of elected seats is acceptable, but I have a few points to make. First, you allow for a 25% deviation in the population quota. But for some special districts, like the Islands District, they face this very real problem because the Islands District covers a vast area. And then if one member has to serve different islands, it will be very difficult for him to provide the service. So in such circumstances, islands which is larger in size, would you consider increasing the number of seats for them? So that's the first point. And then second point, the government is reviewing the functions of the district councils. And after the review, I believe that residents would have higher aspirations for district councillors, including asking them to do concrete work. Now, the two municipal councils, Iccpr and LegCo, have been undertaking some work when they were in existence, and can their work be devolved to the DCs? So the support for the district councillors is grossly inadequate at the moment, especially in terms of the Secretariat services. So can the CMAB consider providing Secretariat support so that also the HAB can increase their manpower and strengthen their support for the district councillors? All right, Secretary, on your first question about the 25% deviation from the population quota, and actually in the boundary demarcation to be undertaken in the first half of next year, the EAC can take into consideration the 25% when it is drawing up the boundary under Section 20 of the EACO. Well, they have actually greater flexibility in doing that. Now, for the Islands District Council, the present seat number is 10. Will that be increased? Because actually the population in the Islands District is decreasing. If you look at Annex A, they originally have 10 seats. Well, according to statistics or calculation, they should have reduced it to 9. But then our suggestion is to retain it at 10. And that is really to make up for the shortfall in the number of district councillors in undertaking work in that area. Now, if we're going to increase the number further, and I'm afraid that really goes against our set principles. Now, last point about Secretariat support for district council and district council functions. Now, on the operation of DCs, then it is spearheaded by the HAB, and then the CMAB is really supporting the sort of overall structure of the DC. And if members do have a view on that, they can reflect it to the HAB. Because the work is spearheaded by HAB. Next one, Dr. Kenneth CHAN. Every time we discuss the functions and duties of DC, review of their functions, demarcation of boundaries, and so on. This is a basket of considerations that we've been talking about. And then every time we discuss these issues, the issues are sort of fall into different policy bureaus, and that's not good enough. You seem to be kicking the ball around, and it's really hard on the LegCo members. I hope that the government can come up with a systematic way of gauging views from the LegCo members, academia, and the community. I think that's very important. If you refer to the paper this time, of course, we support the abolition of appointed seats, and some people also advocate that the ex officio seats be abolished because these people, ex officio seats, come from the rural village representatives and so on. Now, we are talking about reduction in the number of seats. Wan Chai, 11 seats, Island District Council, 10 seats. So we may end up with too few district councillors discussing issues at DC meetings. Can we think about whether we should still adopt a single seat, single vote system, or should we change it to a proportional representation system? Should we draw up the boundaries to include to expand the size of the constituency, say to increase the number of population quota to over 16,000 or 17,000? I don't see any answers here to all the issues I raised. The government just said that a review is going to be conducted. Now, will the government, apart from the figures, present the boundaries among the districts? Because that's very crucial, because the paper doesn't have that sort of information here. Say for Wan Chai DC, would the government consider actually enlarging the size of the so-called Wan Chai district when it is drawing up the boundaries? Would it be sort of borrowing the population from other districts? What will be the whole consultation process be like? Now, after so many years of constitutional reform, and then people in the districts have established good relationships with their district councils, and if new boundaries are to be drawn, what is going to be the time? How is it going to be the timetable going to be like? Question about DCCAs, district council constituency areas. According to the law, the EAC will, according to a new population quota, and then consult a public consultation. And then that has to be endorsed by the CE, and then we'll come back to the LegCo, the timetable. This big figure, i.e. 431, we hope that it will be presented to the LegCo by July, and then after the subsidiary legislation has been passed, the EAC will then press forward with its work and then immediately launch public consultation. That's the first point. Second, on Wan Chai. Last week, I had the opportunity to meet with the chairman and vice chairman of the 18 DCs to exchange views on this proposal that we're talking today. Their views are that the chairman and vice chairman support such a proposal, and they at the same time mentioned the point raised by Mr. Kenneth CHAN. Now, Wan Chai has only 11 elected seats. Now, in Eastern District, can we reallocate certain constituencies from the Eastern District to the Wan Chai DC? Now, there is another suggestion that of merging the Wan Chai and Central and western districts. This has been raised by people too. So the administration's overall view is we have no preconceived ideas and we want to listen to views from everyone, including the district councillors and the LegCo members today. So initially, when we were considering this point, our view is this. Now, if we have to make that sort of adjustment, then it involves redrawing the boundaries, and that involves a legislative amendment. The last time that was done actually was 19 years ago, and actually that was merging Mong Kok into Yiu-chung district. Say for Eastern District, if we have to reallocate certain seats in that district to Wan Chai, then Eastern DC will have concern, and then Wan Chai DC will welcome it. So different parties have different concerns. So our major considerations are these 2 or 3 points. First is about the secondary school network, because they are categorized into different networks according to the administrative districts. Now, if some schools in Eastern districts are going to be categorized as schools in Wan Chai district, then residents in Eastern district would feel that they have fewer schools to choose from. So that's something of concern. And second, about LCSD facilities, because the planning for such recreational facilities is based on the administrative district demarcation. So if we are going to do the new boundaries, that is going to affect these facilities as well. Now, third, the Eastern District councillors told me that they have good, deep feelings for their district, and then they have some adjustment to make as far as the feelings and emotions are concerned if they are going to be reallocated to the Wan Chai district. Well, as I said, we have an open attitude, and we have to tread carefully, say for issues like secondary school network and so on. These are complicated issues that we have to deal with. So if we are to go along that route, we have to do a public consultation, especially residents in the districts affected. Next, Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I think the administration has listened for many years the view that the arrangement for district council now is not very satisfactory. District councillors and political parties have all along advocated for bigger power authority of the district councillors so that they have both the relevant duties and the authority and power to do their work. And this is very important. Now, their representativeness is so weak at the moment. They represent only some 10,000 or 20,000 people. They have a narrow mind, and they just focus on the bus stop next to where they live or the sort of the drainage system in that particular street. They are not really helping Hong Kong to progress. Now, the administration has been saying all along that we want to groom political talents, but with this kind of structure, how can we groom political talents? So why shouldn't we take this opportunity to make a larger scale review? Now, I'm not advocating that we should go back to the days of the urban council, but I think at least we should give them more power. They have a higher representativeness, and they can equip themselves better to engage more in politics in the future. Now, you are just making all these piecemeal remedial measures. How is it going to help the SRAR at all? Now, Secretary, since the first term of DC, in Annex B of the paper, we have maintained the ratio of 1 to 17,000, 1 seat to 17,000 people, as far as the elected seats are concerned. Well, please ask him to reply more succinctly. Yes, all right. So for this round of work, we have proposed the increase in the number of seats according to the population growth. And we have not made any proposals of merging different districts or changing the voting system to the proportional representation system. These are not issues to be dealt with under the proposed legislative amendment. Now, some people have said that the single seat, single vote system has proved effective and we should not rush into changing it. So for the large-scale review that Ms. Emily Lau mentioned, I think we should tread very carefully. Chairman, my question is whether the district councillors should have higher representatives covering bigger constituencies. And also, their duties and functions, should they be given more duties and functions so that they feel that their work is more meaningful and they have greater responsibilities? Is the government turning a blind eye to all these proposals that we have been advocating? Well, Secretary, actually, we've listened to views from both sides. As I said, we have to be very careful. The system of district councillors has worked very well, and we have to be very careful. Now, it isn't good enough that you use it. The reason that it has been in place for so long that changes should not be introduced. But many political parties, many members of the public and scholars have reflected that this system is not sound and doesn't do any good to Hong Kong's development at all. Now, a number of political parties have occupied a number of seats, and they seem to be supporting everything the administration proposes. Is this going to help Hong Kong at all? I've heard
the views of Ms. Lau. We're just making proposals on the basis of the legislation. But if we are going to do a wholesale review, we have to consider it very carefully. But when? Well, as I said, we've heard both various views, and we'll continue to listen to views. Well, that's brilliant. You're earning over $300,000 a month, and you say you keep listening to views. Well, that's not good enough. Do you know that people in Hong Kong do have some expectation on the constitutional development in Hong Kong? You need to have a system that keeps up with the people's expectation. And you say you will keep listening to views, but you've been hearing views for over a decade. How many more decades do we have? Well, whether it's a single seat, single vote, or proportional representation, different political parties have different views. I think it's better that we have a more detailed discussion. Before Mr. Ronnie Tong, I'm also on the same point. District Council, I think the biggest problem is that they don't have enough legitimacy and they don't have enough resources. Now you say this council is based on the boundaries of the administrative district, but I think that you're putting the cart before the horse. I think what is important is that you will define the boundary in such a way that it benefits the residents. I don't know where this magic figure of 17,000 came from. Well, 17,000. And we have 40% or so of voters, and then the turnout rate is about 40%. So that means if there are two competing for a seat, the person who's won may only have just 1,000 or 2,000 votes, and the difference could be just a matter of a few dozen votes if someone wins or someone loses. So how could there be any legitimacy? I hope you would look into this. Maybe you could broaden the constituency. Even proportional representation is fine. But then there are it's just a difference of a few dozen votes, and one person may win, the other may lose. Then whoever wins, actually, he doesn't carry much legitimacy. And then the way you distribute resources is odd too. Wan Chai, only 11 elected district councillors. Bigger district councils like Sha Tin, 38, Kwun Tong, 37 elected members. So there's a huge difference. So have you considered broadening the constituencies? you could keep the same number of seats, and you could broaden its constituencies, and then you could go for proportional representation. And are you also considering keeping a similar number of seats for each district, maybe at least 20 or 30 seats? Then only so there will be enough resources for the district. There won't be a wealth gap as such. So why wouldn't you consider that from this point of view? You should have vision. You should have ambition. You shouldn't just follow what's been done by the past secretaries. If your attitude is that I just don't want to make mistakes, I would play safe, well, that's not good enough. On the demarcation of district councils, the size of district councils, and the size of membership and so on, we've been talking about it for several decades. Every past secretary answered the same way. You're still doing the same, so how can you be answerable to the public like that? Now, on the sizes of district councils, could that be more even? And for the size of the constituency, again, can that be more even? Secretary. Well, there is variation in sizes of district councils and constituencies. On this issue, as I said, I am keeping an open mind. So far, we've heard views at the local level. There's for Wan Chai, there are relatively few elected members, so maybe there should be some form of reorganization between the Central Western District and the Wan Chai District. You have plenty of time, Secretary. We're only in 2013. The election is only in 2015. And when you go to the district, you shouldn't be asking the incumbent members because they may have vested interest. You should take a broader view. That's why I say if it's going to be a consultation, it will be an open public consultation. The, size, the ratio, that is 1 seat to 70,000 voters. We've been keeping the same ratio for years. I'm sure some of you must know better than me, but I think the reason is because that would allow a district councillor to have more contact with his voters. If a district councillor is to serve more voters, maybe the quality of his service may suffer. Now, all along it's been 17,000 residents. That means each district councillor knows exactly how many voters he's serving and how he could ensure the quality of his service to his voters. Now, in some places, as Mr. Yiu-chung pointed out, they may serve fewer voters, but because they are more spread out, it takes more time traveling to visit voters, for instance. And if we increase the size further, that may mean even bigger area to cover for the district councillor. So we have to be very careful. But as I said, we keep an open mind. Dr. Lam Tai Fai. Before and after the election, Mr. C.Y. Leung said that he would enhance the functions of district councils, and he will motivate district councillors more. But so far, I haven't seen any policy coming from him on this. Just now, a member mentioned a point. Mentioned this, and the secretary said, "Oh, you will continue to listen to views." So it seems you are keeping open mind, but I think you're being perfunctory with that answer. You're not being responsible. Now, if they see all your government are committed to enhance the role of the district council, you must have some idea in mind. It's just that you don't want to do it. That's why you say, well, okay, we'll listen to views. And so you could keep listening to views until until 2017 or 2016. Then what do we do? A lot of government policies do not have the popular support. That's why the government's suffering low popularity rating. So it's best to listen to those who represent the people, because they know exactly what, especially what the middle and lower class think. So if you enhance their functions, they will certainly help you in the formulation and implementation of policy. You see the need to do that, but you're just paying lip service. You say you listen to views. You're not coming with any new initiatives. I'm really disappointed with your reply. I hope you would take this issue very seriously. For the 2015 DC election, the demarcation of the boundaries, you only consider it in the beginning of 2014, and you say you allow sufficient time for public consultation. So the early 2014, is it before or after the Chinese New Year? So it's just 1 year or so away. And after you finish everything, you only have less than a year to make a decision. Now, for those who want to run for election, do they have enough time then to start their district work or start offices there? Why must you leave it till so late? Why can't you consider it earlier? I mean, the demarcation of boundaries. Now, for district council, you say you'd set the boundaries in 2014-15. What about the LegCo election? When will you consult on the boundaries? That's an important issue as well. Because the LegCo election will be held in September 2016, about 6 to 9 months away from the DC election. So apart from listening to our views, Secretary, just tell us at least one thing. How are you going to enhance the functions of the district council? Can you hear me, Secretary? Yes, I can. What's my question then? So you say the functions, whether there's enough time to demarcate boundaries in 2014. So also, okay, I see you can multitask. That's brilliant. Mr. Chairman, through you, I'm having a dialogue with Dr. Lam. Now, earlier I answered Mr. Kwok-him's question about the functions of the district council. Now, just now there's mentioned No, I don't want to hear what members think. I want to know what you have in mind, the government. Now, Mr. Christopher Jerome may have his views, Mr. Chen Chi-chu may have his views, but what does the government want to do? That's what I want to hear. Now, Dr. Lam Tai-fei may have some ideas on how we can enhance the role of the district councils. In the policy address, the CE mentioned that district issues ought to be resolved at the district level. I'm sure you're all familiar with that idea. And then last week, the chief executive had a meeting with the chairman and vice chairman of all 18 district councils to see how we could take this further. So it's about the functions of DC and how these could be enhanced. That's the matter for the Home Affairs Bureau, because the Home Affairs Bureau is in charge of the resources and manpower resources as well. But if there's a need to amend the legislation, especially the election legislation, of course this Bureau would be more than happy to support the work of the HAB. And as I said, when I introduced the paper, I said that if our proposal is supported by this council today, then by around January 2014, the Electoral Affairs Commission will start the public consultation exercise, and it could complete the task in the first half of 2014. It could also secure approval from LegCo. So it will be about 1 year and 4 or 5 months before the actual election. That's in response to your question. On the LegCo election district boundaries, in accordance with the legislation, the task will start maybe in 2015. At 3:30, we have to move on to the next item, because there are many deputations here to give their views, so we don't want to keep them waiting too long. But then there are still three members who wish to speak for the first time. Ms. Chen Yun-han, Mrs. Regina Ip, and Ms. Alice Mack. I'll draw the line there. Oh, and Mr. Gary Fang as well. So 4 members. In that case, I think we have to just give each member 4 minutes. And we'll draw the line here. Okay, so no other speakers. And there won't be a second round. I'm sorry. These are all members who are speaking for the first time. Ms. Chen Yun-han. Mr. Chairman, since we have little time, so I'll start with criticism right away. Now, what I heard the Secretary, I immediately made a phone call. You said you listened to views of Chairman and Vice Chairman. You said they didn't have views, but no, I checked immediately, and they said they have views. They have various points to make. And there's also paper clipping from Ta Kung Po. Now, several chairman or vice chairman have mentioned enhancing the role of the DC, but you haven't actually taken up that issue seriously. Now, when I've always been asking about this, they say that it's to do with the Home Affairs Bureau. It's got nothing to do with the Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Bureau, so they are passing the buck to and fro. Now, Leung said, or Sun Kai-chang said that very often when we deal with district affairs, different departments just pass around the buck. It's the same here in the different bureau are passing the buck. Now, you can't say that you won't do anything because you are leaving it to the district council. No, you have to start doing something. And it's not true that some district council have no views. That's not true. Actually, Wong Tai Sin district council definitely written in. It's not about arguments among different political parties. Some said that for the old Kai-tak Airport, it should go to Wong Tai Sin because Wong Tai Sin needs to have some waterfront. So for that reason, we asked that part of the Kai-tak Airport be grouped under Wong Tai Sin District Council. And but now you are proposing to put it under Kowloon City. Now, there are over 300 hectares of land at the old Kai-tak Airport site, and you should give some of it to Wong Tai Sin, but for some reason you have jumped to the conclusion to group it up, put it all under Kowloon City. You said there are no views on the whole. It's not true. I just asked my chairman, district council chairman, he said he's expressed views, just that you didn't mention it. So I don't think you should give an account that way. And the first time when I ran for the district council election, we've been asking for this and we've got nowhere. No, so please give me an answer.
All right, Secretary, please reply. Chairman, about the Wong Tai Sin and Kowloon City districts, I can go back and take a look. If it involves the demarcation of the administrative councils, all right, please ask Commissioner, the district officer, Mr. Siu. Now, if there is going to be adjustment on the boundaries among the 18 DCs, I have to do a widespread consultation. And it's not just limited to Wong Tai Sin and Kowloon City, but Wan Chai and so on. Well, we do have very strong views on this point. Well, Wong Tai Sin may have views, but Kowloon City may also have views. So we'll take a look at that when we do public consultation. Yes, I said that I will go back and take a look. District Council, as I mentioned, the work is the district councils fall under the ambit of HAB, and actually when they held a meeting last week, we didn't participate. But anyway, we'll go back and consider the points you raised. Chairman, I want to emphasize that many chairmen of the district councils hope that their functions can be enhanced. Well, please take a look at the newspaper clipping from Tai Kung Pao on the 17th of May. Next, Ms. Regina Yip. My party has the least number of DC members. I think because we are so new, so we have the least vested interest. So it's very difficult to get or be elected as district councillors. I think district councillors can accumulate good experience, especially for the young people. They can accumulate experience in serving the public, and then they may take a step forward, say in joining the LegCo or even joining the bureau of the CMA. So I don't think there's any problem with a small constituency. They first passed the post system. It's all right. And then the U.S. president lost in the general election votes, but then they won in the electoral college. For the Eastern district council, there are over 30 elected seats, but in Wan Chai, there are only 11 elected seats. And the number is really so few, and then one member may have to take on dual roles. But for Eastern DC, then because there are so many members, the meeting may be very long, and people don't have enough time to speak. And also the young people will not have opportunity to rise, and then that won't do good for the grooming the talents and to the functions of the DCs and service for the residents. So I support that the seats of Eastern District be reassigned to 4 other districts. What I mean is, say, for the 4 districts, regions near the Wan Chai, they can be designated as Wan Chai district. So please consider these humble wishes of ours, please. Secretary? Ms. Yip's views actually are shared by a number of people in the community. So we would look into that and consider how to take the matter forward. Ms. Alice Mack, I support Ms. Chen Yin-han's remarks that for administrative or geographical, administrative convenience or geographical considerations, actually some areas can be redesignated to other administrative districts. Say for Yingfai Terrace in Lai Chi Kok, it is ultimately designated as a Shamshui-Po district, and I think that is a good arrangement that makes people happy. So I think the Secretary can consider members' views. Now, as for the functions of DCs, I think the Secretary, you should take a serious look at that. Since the last term, the community halls are governed by the district councillors. So actually, this working group on community hall started in 1993 when I was first elected. So it's not something new. So I hope that the Secretary can reflect our views to Mr. Chang of Iccpr. Now, there have been so many changes in different districts. I think you are changing the Kwai-ching district because you're not proposing any new seats for Kwai-ching, but then the population there has grown. Why are you increasing seats for all other districts but not Kwai-ching? Now, as Mr. Ronnie Tong said, should we be just consulting the chairman and vice chairman of the existing DCs, and that their views may be biased because they have vested interest? And is it the case that you shouldn't be consulting LegCo members, say if you draw up LegCo district boundaries, saying that we are vested in people with vested interest? That's not fair. I think if you are to respect the functions of the district councils, you have to respect the quality or the caliber of the district councillors. Well, that's a comment, not a question. Any response from you, Secretary? Well, on the administrative districts we will consider, and then functions we will also consider. Now, for Kwai-ching district, because of this, the calculation in the numbers and rounding off the figures, so that's why there is no increase in the number of seats. Now, if we are to review the work of the DCs, the chairman and vice chairman's views are very important because, after all, they are elected people, members. Mr. Gary Fan, 2 points to make. First, enhancement of DC's functions, and then second is the voter size. Now, I have to declare interest. I'm a Sai Kung district councillor. I've served on the district council for over 10 years. I don't agree with the Secretary saying that we would support or not support enlarging the constituency. Now, I personally support expanding the size of the constituency so that we can further enhance the functions and powers of the DC. Now, after the unification 10 years ago, I don't think the government is sincere in introducing reforms to our constitutional system. The Zhongqiwa and from Zhongqiwa and to now, they have been talking about enhancing DC functions, but that's all talk, with no concrete work achieved. And then CE also mentioned district affairs should be dealt with district councils. I think that's something that is not being achieved. Now, district councillors have the three functions of personnel appointment, financial management, and managing district affairs. If they don't have these three functions, then it's all empty talk. Because we have to, if we have to enlarge the functions or enhance the functions of DCs, we can't use this proportion of 1 to 17,000. That's not sufficient. Now, district councillors' administrative strength or power would not be enhanced if they can't accumulate enough experience in concrete district work. Secretary, you are more capable than well, you are very capable, and but then you are carrying out the reforms at a snail's walk's pace, and I think it's a pity that Hong Kong can't enhance or upgrade the skills of our political talents. And what the government is doing is just appointing political assistants under secretaries, and I don't think that would help. What I think we need to do is to enhance or groom talents in the, say, the district council and LegCo councils, and that would only, by doing that, will we be able to enhance the standards of our members in LegCo and district councils. Mr. Gary Fan is a successful example. He has progressed from a district councillor from LegCo to a LegCo member. Now, I don't think I am a successful example, and I served only in the past 17,000 people, but now I'm serving millions of people. I think the present government is doing a worse off job than what the colonial government was doing. Well, we are trying to progress from one stage, one step, one level to another, and that's a good rationale behind the system that we had in the past, from district councils to municipal councils and LegCo and so on. Secretary, any response? Now, Mr. Gary Fan said that we should enhance the functions of district councils and then try to groom more political talents. Now, increasing the elected seats in the district councils is precisely what the paper is proposing, and that would provide opportunities for young people to participate in politics. Now, if we were to expand the ratio of 1 to 17,000, we have to expand the system to, say, the proportional change the system to a proportional representation system. But then we have to consider how the system can be reformed in a way that the district councillors can still provide personal service to the residents. Well, as I said, I am willing to take back your views and reflect them to the Mr. Zhang. But then I think the HAB has to spearhead the work. Now, what we are proposing in the present paper is really to increase the number of seats according to the population projections. All right, in the interest of time, we have to end the discussion of this agenda item. And next is about the hearing of the Unhrc on the third report of the HKSARG in the light of the Iccpr. Now, because several dozen deputations will be coming in, we'll have to make some arrangements in